Hi, this is Kevin, but this is actually not a tactical legal tip, but rather a formal announcement to officially call attention to the name of our law practice changing from Smith, Rodgers, and Strickland to simply Smith, Rodgers. And this change occasioned by the recent retirement of our law colleague and friend, Ralph Strickland. Greg Rodgers and I are pleased to use this occasion as a video tribute to embarrass Ralph by telling him how important he has been to our practice and to law enforcement around the state. And I'm going to add a few comments here, and then Greg unfortunately is not able to be here today, but he's given me a message to include in this tribute as well. I just want to say that I first met Ralph Strickland back in 1994 when I joined the staff of the North Carolina Justice Academy, this after 6 years of private practice with a firm in Greensboro. And I will say this about Ralph back in those days. Ralph took me in like I was his own son and showed me the ropes and gave me practical pointers about how to have a successful career with the Department of Justice. And that meant a great deal to me. And I quickly came to understand why it was that Ralph Strickland was so greatly admired by everyone that he came into contact with. Ralph was just a personality. He was a character, and he always had a joke, could always brighten your day, make you feel good. And maybe more importantly than that, you came to realize that there was nothing that Ralph Strickland would not do for you if you needed help. If I had to come up with a description of Ralph Strickland for anyone who didn't know Ralph, and those of you that are younger in law enforcement perhaps never had the privilege of talking to Ralph Strickland, Ralph was maybe these examples are too old to be helpful, but Ralph is a combination of several characters as I think about him. He's a little bit John Wayne, a little bit Bob Hope, a little bit Don Rickles, and a little bit Dom DeLuise. In fact, those are examples that are probably too old to be helpful to a younger audience. I tell you what, here are some photos that we'll take a look at as I add just a couple of additional comments in this Ralph Strickland tribute. Here's a photograph that was taken of us. I think this was on the campus of Wake Forest University during some event a while back. That's me there on the left, Ralph Strickland beside me, Tara Harper, who was an associate with our practice back at that time, and then, of course, my partner, Greg Rodgers. Tara Harper, if you remember Tara being with our practice, she has now gone on to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia. But as I get back to recollections about Ralph Strickland and what he meant to my career, one of the most amazing things about Ralph, now back in those days when you started at the Justice Academy as a new staff attorney, you were immediately assigned Ralph Strickland to go to class with Ralph and sit in the audience and learn from Ralph's technique as well as his legal knowledge. And one of the things that amazed me about Ralph's teaching style was that Ralph had an ability to make fun of his students. Now, in a good-natured, good-hearted way, of course, but Ralph has these one-liners. He can come up with a one-liner for any situation and exploit that and just really have the audience thoroughly enjoy. In fact, it was the remarkable thing was this: the students were eager to have fun, rather have Ralph make them the target of his next joke. It was like raising their hand, Ralph, get me next, make fun of me. So it was a very unique thing. But Ralph, again, has that spirit, that personality that people just warm up to and really get a kick out of. Here's a shot where Ralph appears to be getting ready to go into one of his Three Stooges routines, perhaps. Here's a shot where I appear to be taking a client call right in the middle of the photo shoot out there at Wake Forest. If I had my guess, I would say it's either the Smithfield Police Department, the Cary Police Department, Iredell County Sheriff's Office, or Harnett County Sheriff's Office back at that time, if I was a betting man. But this was several years ago. Here's a shot of Ralph, Greg, and I with our beloved law colleague, Reese Trimmer. As you may know, Reese Trimmer passed away a few years ago. Ralph and Reese, in fact, were best friends for many years. Those of you that are older will remember Reese Trimmer, who we consider the grandfather of police attorneys in North Carolina. It could be said that Reese Trimmer invented the police attorney concept in this state back when he worked for Durham, as did Ralph Strickland for many years. Another observation about Ralph, I want to say that Ralph Strickland is a man of strong Christian faith. Anyone who knows Ralph or knew Ralph years ago will remember that Ralph was always there to help and was quick with a prayer, a verse of scripture, a word of encouragement, and in this way Ralph ministered to many people around the state because he knew so many people, or maybe I should say so many people knew Ralph. But Ralph's faith was very important, not only to him, but to those persons that he touched. And I suspect that Ralph comforted and helped many more people than he will ever realize. And again, would never hesitate to do something like this. Here's a photograph that I suspect. By the way, I didn't mention anything about Drusilla. Drusilla is Ralph's wife, and she took these photographs. And as a professional photographer, that photograph of us appearing with Reese Trimmer, I tell you what, if you were ever in a photo shoot with Drusilla, God bless her, you did what you were told. She told you to sit up, lean forward, cock your head to the left, or in this example, I think she said, Kevin, hold your fist up. But you did, by golly, what you were told by Drusilla. But she did some very fine photography for us and over many years, and I want to recognize her. But I suspect this next photograph was not Drusilla's favorite. This was a Ralph Strickland shot. He said, I tell you what, let's pose where I am behind the wall and I'll look like I'm nothing but a coconut head, and Kevin, you lean over and put your elbow on top of my head and so forth. I doubt Drusilla was crazy about this one, but she played along, and that's a memorable shot as well. Now, I mentioned earlier that Greg Rodgers is not able to be here to participate in this tribute, but Greg left me with some instructions. And Greg said, Kevin, here's what I want you to say. I want you to say on my behalf that Ralph Strickland was the greatest classroom instructor of all time. Ralph was an instructor and a legal advisor who could answer any officer's question, not only with a keen knowledge of the law, but with wisdom and experience. That is, with a knack for how to communicate to the officer in a way that anyone could understand an otherwise complex legal matter in an easy to apply, understandable way. And that was one of, and continues to be one of Ralph's gifts, of course. In fact, Greg said this. He said, Kevin, I tell you what, for my part of the tribute, just do this. Show in the video the plaque that Ralph received in November of last year. And in fact, here it is. Ralph was presented with this plaque from the Federal Drug Conference, the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, or OCDEF as it's known. And Ralph was a frequent, in fact, an annual speaker at their training events. And this was Ralph's last occasion to be present prior to his, or at the time of his retirement. And OCDEF presented Ralph with this plaque, which I'm going to read here in a moment. And Ralph received not one but two standing ovations from a very thankful, very appreciative OCDEF audience. Here's what the plaque says, in case it does not show up very well in the video. In grateful recognition of your dedicated service and sound wisdom and guidance in support of the annual OCDEF Drug Investigation Training Conference, your ability to take complex legal rulings and present the information in an easily understandable and humorous fashion is unique and made you one of the most popular speakers in the history of the conference. Your willingness to provide legal counsel to drug agents across North Carolina has earned you their heartfelt respect and admiration. You are the key reason this training has become the finest drug enforcement conference in the state. Thanks from the agents and prosecutors of North Carolina. Again, OCDEF Conference, Sunset Beach, North Carolina, November 16th, 2011. And that's just an example of how Ralph's students, Ralph's clients appreciated his services over so many years. So that is included in the video as Greg's contribution to explain how we all felt about Ralph as a legal instructor, legal advisor. And so it is that we say goodbye to Ralph Strickland as a law colleague, but not as a very close friend. And he continues to be our friend and a friend to this law practice. I would like to say this, that if you're a friend of Ralph and would like to keep up with him, I invite you to visit Ralph's blog, which is ralphstrickland.blogspot.com. And Ralph continues to write and post interesting comments, observations that he hopes, if you're interested, you'll take a moment to visit his blog and stay in touch with him accordingly. So it is Ralph, from Greg and Kevin and Alan Leonard and Smith Rodgers, our best to you and to Drusilla. And we will, of course, be staying in touch. We will forever appreciate all that you've done for law enforcement, for this law practice, and for us as your very good friends. We wish you the best.